It was Thursday, March 20th, just past 9:48 in the morning. Michael Gaine, 56, a seasoned sheep and cattle farmer from Kerry East, pulled up his bronze Toyota RAV4 in the central car park of Kenmare. He stepped inside, bought phone credit and a lunch roll, typical errands of a man rooted in routine. CCTV showed him calm, chatting casually, dressed in an orange beanie, black fleece, blue jeans, and heavy boots, nothing out of the ordinary. He walked out, climbed into his RAV4, and drove off, heading back toward his farm, 6 kilometers away. That simple drive became the last confirmed glimpse of Michael Gaine alive. No CCTV later captured him. No phone ping. No word from a man who loved his land, his rally car, and community. By lunchtime, the question echoed, where did he go? The tranquility of a sleepy Kerry morning shattered with the unnerving reality Michael Gaine had vanished. It was Friday, March 21st, the day after Michael disappeared, and that's when alarm bells really started ringing. Michael didn't show up at home. No calls, no messages, nothing. His bronze Toyota RAV4, registered 152KY366, was still parked in his farmyard off the N71 just as he'd left it. Inside, his phone untouched. His wallet still with cards and cash. The keys right where he must have placed them that morning. It shattered the theory of a simple misstep or accident. A man who never left his tools behind, never forgot his essentials, suddenly gone without taking any of it. That untouched car, those forgotten belongings, they sounded the first real alarm that this was no ordinary disappearance. This was deliberate. This was cold. And by Friday evening, the quiet cops and volunteers of Kerry were all asking the same question. What happened to Michael Gaine, and why everything that should scream, "I'm okay," was left behind? On Tuesday, April 29th, nearly 6 weeks after his final sighting, Gardaí made a chilling announcement. This was no longer a missing persons case. Michael Gaine was now officially a homicide victim. That shift wasn't just a formality. It unlocked a wider arsenal, advanced forensic teams, extended warrants, expanded search zones, tactical interviews, full-scale crime scene protocols. They began gathering digital evidence, cell pings, farm records, and questioning anyone who'd had contact with Gaine or his property. For Kenmare, it was a moment of reckoning. The quiet desperation of a missing man turned into the harsh reality of murder. And deep in the blood-soaked fields of Kerry East, a community realized the unthinkable. Someone took Michael Gaine's life. Someone hid the proof. And now Gardaí have every legal tool they need to find out who and why. By the end of April, with the case officially declared a homicide, the guards turned to the only thing they hadn't fully tapped yet, the public. Michael's wife, Janice Gaine, and his sister stepped in front of the cameras, not with press statements or prepared remarks, but with raw, honest grief. Janice's voice cracked as she described Michael as gentle, loyal, dependable, a man who never would have vanished on his own. She looked straight down the lens and pleaded with the public. If you know something, anything, please come forward. Don't let silence be the end of Michael's story. The guards amplified that appeal across national media, urging locals, drivers, anyone who may have passed through Kerry East that week to check dashcams, recall details, report suspicions. This wasn't about theories anymore, it was about facts. And the facts were terrifyingly simple. Michael Gaine hadn't disappeared. He was gone because someone made him disappear. It was Thursday, May 16th. A neighbor was working in a field near Carrick East using a slurry spreader. Just another routine morning on the land. But then something jammed the machine. Thick, heavy. Not the usual blockage. He opened it up. What he found didn't belong in any tank. Human tissue, bone, blood. He called the guards immediately. Within hours, the area was sealed off and forensic specialists descended on the property. State pathologists, anthropologists, crime scene analysts. The guards knew right then and there that they weren't just looking at a disappearance anymore. They were standing on a murder scene. What followed was one of the largest forensic operations in Kerry's history. Bones and soft tissue were located in the slurry tank, in the pipes, in the field itself, scattered by machinery across farmland. Michael Gaine hadn't just been killed, he'd been butchered. And he'd been hidden in the most horrifying way imaginable. By the morning of Friday, May 17th, Carrick East had become a sealed grid of forensic zones. The guards locked down the slurry tank and surrounding farmland. Forensic teams in full suits moved silently across the terrain. They weren't just collecting bones, they were reconstructing a crime. Human remains were recovered from the tank, the spreader, the grass, the soil. Pieces of Michael Gaine were scattered over a wide area spread, not just by intent, but by machinery unknowingly across the fields he once worked. Specialists from the state pathologist's office and the forensic anthropologist carefully mapped each discovery, every bone, every trace of tissue. Nothing was assumed. Every inch of ground was examined, but no murder weapon had been found, no blood inside the home, no defensive wounds on site. The violence had happened somewhere, but not in the open. Whoever did this had moved with precision. And now, under the surface of a quiet Irish farm, the truth was starting to surface one fragment at a time. Over the next days, the guards worked fast but carefully. Samples from the remains, both soft tissue and bone, were rushed to the state laboratory for testing. It didn't take long. Less than a week after the gruesome discovery, the results came back. The remains were officially identified as Michael Gaine, the man who had once wandered through fields with his sheepdog, who spent years tending cattle, restoring old rally cars, and waving to neighbors from his quad bike, was now the subject of a homicide file marked with blood and bone. The confirmation hit the community hard. But for the guards, it meant one thing. The hunt was now for a killer, not a missing man, not a body, a person, someone known, someone local, someone who had stood on that land and tried to erase Michael Gaine from it. But the land hadn't kept the secret. And now the investigation sharpened like a blade. On Saturday, May 18th, the guards made their first major move. A man in his early 50s was arrested under suspicion of murder. His name, Michael Kelly, an American, a former US soldier. He had been living and working on Michael Gaine's farm for months, cutting timber, helping with livestock, staying in a cabin nearby. Locals had seen them together, often quiet chats, shared workdays, nothing seemed off. But now, Kelly was in custody at a Garda station, held under Section 4 of the Criminal Justice Act, which allowed questioning for up to 24 hours. Inside that interview room, the guards tried to break through looking for motive, timeline gaps, inconsistencies. But the clock ran out. By Sunday, May 19th, Michael Kelly was released without charge. No confession, no weapon, no direct forensic evidence linking him to the remains. And just like that, he walked free. Not as an innocent man, not as a guilty one. Just untouchable for now. The case had a body, but still no killer behind bars. In the days following the arrest, the guards turned their attention to the tools on Michael Gaine's farm. They seized 3 chainsaws from the yard. The public began to speculate. Had Michael been dismembered with one of them? Was it a brutal act of rage, loud, messy, violent? But behind closed doors, the forensic labs told a different story. By the end of May, the guards confirmed what their investigators feared. Michael Gaine had not been dismembered with a chainsaw. There was no mechanical cut pattern, no residue from a blade running at speed. The damage to the bones was cleaner, slower, sharper. It wasn't a saw. It was a sword-like blade. A weapon long enough to sever, heavy enough to split bone, and cold enough to suggest calculation over chaos. The guards didn't find the weapon. Not yet. But they now believed the killer had used something silent, efficient, and personal. Something meant to destroy not just the body, but the identity of the man it belonged to. The chainsaws were ruled out. The killer had used a blade, and the search shifted from noise to silence, from machines to steel. By early June, the guards had a grim picture. They had a body, or what was left of it. They had a suspect released and lawyered up. They had motive whispers, but no direct witness. And now they had a theory. The weapon used to kill and dismember Michael Gaine was a sword-type blade. But where was it? The guards launched an intense new phase of the investigation. The farmland at Carrick East, over 1,000 acres of fields, ditches, bog, and forest, was swept again. They searched sheds, barns, marshes. They dug through topsoil, traced water lines, and scanned dense undergrowth. But the blade, the key to everything, remained missing. It wasn't just a missing object. It was the link between Michael Gaine's life and the person who took it. And the fact that it was gone told the guards one thing. Whoever did this knew the land, knew how to hide. And they weren't finished playing games. With their suspect now walking free and the weapons still missing, the guards took their investigation overseas. In early June, detectives flew to Maine, USA to question people linked to Michael Kelly, the American man who had been arrested and released. Among them, his former partner, who had lived with him for years before he moved to Ireland. The guards weren't just collecting background, they were digging for patterns. History, violence, anything that could hint at what kind of man was living on Michael Gaine's land in the weeks before his death. The trip was quiet, no cameras, no press conferences, but the message was loud. This wasn't just a local case anymore. It was personal. It was international. And it was far from over. What the guards found in Maine remained sealed. But one thing was now clear: Michael Gaine's murder wasn't a random act. It had roots, and someone, possibly more than one person, knew exactly what they were doing. By June 7th, after weeks of silence, horror, and unanswered questions, Kenmare gathered to say goodbye. Michael Gaine's funeral mass was held at Holy Cross Church. The pews were full long before the service began. Hundreds came: family, neighbors, farmers, friends, and figures from across County Kerry. On the altar were symbols of the man they'd lost: a model quad bike, a CD of Irish folk music, a photo of his rally car, a small globe for his love of travel, his ashes resting inside a sheepskin basket. Outside, dozens of motor club members formed a guard of honor, not with flags, but with helmets, high-vis jackets, and quiet tears. And then came the final tribute. Michael's restored Ford Escort MK Roman 2 rally car, his pride and joy, led a slow lap through the streets of Kenmare, carrying his ashes one last time past the places he loved. No sirens, no speeches, just the sound of gravel under tires, and the weight of a community walking behind a man who should never have left them this way. As the sun set on Michael Gaine's funeral, one truth remained. No one has been charged. No weapon has been recovered. And Michael's killer, whoever they are, is still walking free. The guards continue their investigation. They're rechecking alibis, reanalyzing CCTV, sending recovered items back to Dublin for deeper forensic tests. They're still digging, sometimes literally across the 1,000 acres that once belonged to Michael. The slurry tank is empty, but the land still holds secrets. The American farmhand remains the focus of suspicion. But suspicion isn't enough. And so, months after Michael Gaine walked into Kenmare and vanished, the case remains open. Wounds remain raw, and every unanswered question whispers the same thing. Someone knows. Someone saw. And until they come forward, or until the guards find what was meant to stay buried, there will be no peace in Carrick East.